Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive deep into the world of breathing?
Always.
Well, today's deep dive is a bit different. We're exploring a Japanese breathing training manual I stumbled upon.
Interesting.
Yeah. And get this, it's not your typical how-to guide. It's written as a fictional conversation between a breathing master, Mr. Fuurayue, and his student.
A student. So it's like for beginners.
Actually, the student is a middle schooler named Paipo-kun who wants to boost his mental strength.
So using breathing techniques for mental clarity. I like it.
It's really clever. Mr. Fuurayue guides Paipo-kun through all these techniques, some with, well, let's say unusual names.
Like what?
Sinful love breathing, for one.
Sinful love breathing. Okay, you've got my attention. What else?
Oh, there's more. Jellyfish float is another one that caught my eye.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Sinful love breathing and jellyfish float. This is going to be fun.
It is. And it's not just about catchy names. The manual dives into some pretty profound stuff, too, like this Japanese concept called shuhari.
Shuhari. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a three-stage model for mastering any skill. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. First, you follow the rules, then you start experimenting, and eventually you're riding with total freedom.
So like mastering the basics, then breaking free, then transcending the limitations.
You got it. And Mr. Fuurayue uses this analogy of a plane taking off, cruising, and landing to illustrate the different stages of shuhari.
That's a great analogy. I see how that applies to breathing too.
Exactly. Inhaling, that pause at the top of the breath, then exhaling, it's all connected.
This manual sounds like a gold mine. I'm ready to get into the specifics. So where do we start?
Well, the manual kicks off with two main types of breathing. Ready for this? We've got sinful love breathing and shallow dream breathing.
Okay, let's break those down. Sinful love breathing. That sounds like it might be a bit energetic.
It is. It's all about building physical strength through dynamic movements.
So like a more active style of breathing.
Exactly. Then there's shallow dream breathing, which is more about, you guessed it, stillness and mental focus.
So it's like two sides of the same coin. Active versus receptive.
Perfectly put. And the manual uses all these quirky terms to describe specific breathing patterns, like tray or logo.
Logo. Okay, that's one I haven't heard before.
I know, right? They sound a bit strange at first, but they actually make the techniques easier to remember.
That makes sense. So it's like they're creating their own language of breathing.
Exactly. Now, I want to hear your take on this concept called chimera dance. It's all about visualizing fantastical creatures while you move.
Chimera dance. That sounds intriguing. I'm imagining some pretty wild movements.
It is. The idea is to encourage free and fluid movement to tap into your body's natural rhythms.
So it's about letting go of tension and finding that sense of flow.
Exactly. And the manual calls this feeling of being moved by an inner force so shift. It
Yeah.
really resonated with me.
So shift. It sounds like that feeling of being completely in the zone, when everything just clicks.
Yes. That feeling of effortlessness and being totally present.
I like how this manual is blending physical techniques with mental and even spiritual concepts.
It is. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
I know. I can't wait to dive deeper into those specific techniques you mentioned, especially gating.
Ah, yes. Gating. This one is all about channeling energy and building confidence.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Get this. It involves visualizing volcanic eruptions.
Whoa, volcanic eruptions. That's intense.
Right. It's about tapping into this primal power to overcome fear and build resilience.
I love that imagery. So how does it work?
It involves a specific rhythmic breathing pattern, rapid inhales and exhales.
And while you're doing this rhythmic breathing, you're visualizing a volcano erupting.
Exactly. The manual even suggests listening to a special audio track called Yaichi during practice.
Like a soundtrack for your inner volcano. That's brilliant. Okay, what's next?
Let's move on to jellyfish float. This one is a bit more complex. It involves a whole sequence of movements coordinated with your breath.
Coordinated movement. So it's like a moving meditation almost.
Exactly. And you guessed it, you're visualizing yourself as a jellyfish moving gracefully through the water.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of vivid imagery to enhance the practice.
It's incredibly effective. It makes these techniques much more engaging than just following a set of instructions.
Okay, so we've got sinful love breathing, shallow dream breathing, chimera dance, gating, jellyfish float. What else?
Well, there's this technique called closed inhalation, open exhalation that really intrigued me.
Closed inhalation, open exhalation. That sounds a bit counterintuitive. Don't we usually inhale and expand?
That's what I thought too. But this technique flips the script. You close your body during inhalation and open it during exhalation.
I've never heard of that before.
Me neither. It's a practice that's not often taught openly. Apparently, it's found in certain martial arts and meditation traditions.
Okay, now I'm really curious to learn more. What's interesting is that it seems to go against our typical understanding of breathing.
I know, but that's what I love about this manual. It challenges our assumptions and encourages us to explore new possibilities.
So it's not just about learning techniques, but about expanding our understanding of what breathing can be.
Exactly. And speaking of expanding our understanding, the manual dives into something we all think we know, belly breathing. But it breaks it down into 4 distinct types.
4 types. Wow, I had no idea.
I know, and they each have these unique names, like Hekotsutsu and Fukomama. They sound like they belong in a Dr. Seuss book.
Hikotsutsu and Fukomama. I'm going to have to practice saying those. It does make it more memorable, though.
Right, it forces you to pay attention to the subtle differences between the variations. It's like learning a secret code.
And it emphasizes that there's no one right way to breathe, but rather different approaches that work for different people and situations.
Exactly. Which leads us to this fascinating concept of the 12 nodes.
12 nodes. What are those?
Imagine them as energy centers within your body that you can use to visualize and direct your breath flow.
So they're like points of focus for your awareness.
Exactly. And it goes even further. The manual encourages you to visualize these nodes extending beyond your body, connecting you to the earth and even the stars.
Wow, so you become this conduit of energy flowing between heaven and earth. That's powerful.
It is. It's like you're tapping into this vast network of energy that connects us all.
This manual is blowing my mind. We've covered so much already. Yeah. And I'm already feeling like I need to go back and reread it to absorb it all.
Me too. And we still have so much more to explore, like tomato breathing, bottoming, and this idea of gravity as a waterfall. It's a wild ride.
I'm ready for more. This deep dive is getting deeper by the minute.
Hold on tight. We'll be back after a quick moment to continue our exploration.
Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to plunge back into this incredible world of Japanese breathing techniques.
Absolutely. I'm still reeling from all those amazing visuals and those unique names.
I know. Tomato breathing is next on our list, and the name alone has me curious.
Oh, tomato breathing is fascinating. It's all about building stamina and endurance.
So it's like a runner's breathing technique.
It can be, but it's useful for anyone who wants to increase their lung capacity and improve their breathing overall.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the secret behind tomato breathing?
Well, it's all about the ratio inhale for 1 count, hold for 4, and exhale for 2.
So the exhale is twice as long as the inhale. That's interesting.
Exactly. And that slow, controlled exhale is key for building stamina.
It sounds almost like a gentle wave, ebbing and flowing.
That's a great way to put it. It's not about forcing the breath, but about creating a smooth, rhythmic flow.
I like that. So it's not just about breathing deeply, but about finding that perfect balance between inhale, hold, and exhale.
You got it. And tomato breathing helps you cultivate that balance.
Speaking of balance, the manual then moves on to even more nuanced techniques like Asako, Fukuko, and Nagako.
Ah, yes. Those techniques are all about refining your control over the breath.
It's like going from beginner to advanced level.
Exactly. You start with the basics, then you build upon them, adding layers of complexity and subtlety.
Like learning a new language. First, you master the alphabet, then you start forming words, then sentences.
Precisely. It's a gradual progression, building upon each level of mastery.
But let's talk about bottoming now. That name sounds, well, intimidating, to be honest.
I know, but don't let the name scare you. Bottoming is all about engaging your pelvic floor muscles. It's like waking up a dormant energy center within you.
Dormant energy center. Intriguing. So it's not just about the physical muscles, but also about tapping into a deeper energy source.
Exactly. The key exercise is called Suri's Haki Sage, and it involves coordinating the movement of your pelvic floor with your breath.
So it's like lifting and lowering your pelvic floor as you inhale and exhale.
You got it. And the manual uses this powerful metaphor to describe it. Awakening a dormant lion within the pelvis.
A dormant lion. That's such a vivid image. It's like tapping into this hidden strength and power.
Isn't it? The manual is full of these evocative metaphors and images that make the practices so much more engaging and accessible.
I love that. It's not just about dry instructions, but about sparking the imagination and connecting with the deeper meaning behind the techniques.
Speaking of connecting with deeper meaning, The manual then takes a surprising turn and delves into the concept of gravity.
Gravity, that's interesting. What does gravity have to do with breathing?
Well, the manual challenges us to see gravity not as a force that weighs us down, but as a constant waterfall that we must learn to navigate gracefully.
A waterfall. Okay, now I'm really curious.
Think of it this way. Instead of resisting gravity, we can learn to work with it, to find that optimal alignment where our bodies move effortlessly and efficiently.
So it's not just about standing up straight, but about finding that inner balance and harmony with gravity's pull.
Exactly. And the manual introduces concepts like the magic coin and three-section alignment to guide us towards that balanced posture.
Okay, those terms sound intriguing. Can you explain a bit more about how they work?
Well, imagine balancing a coin on your head. The magic coin concept encourages you to find that sense of lightness and poise, as if you were balancing that coin without effort.
Ah, so it's about finding that sweet spot where effortlessness meets stability. I like it. What about three-section alignment?
Three-section alignment focuses on aligning your head, chest, and pelvis. It's about creating this vertical axis that allows energy to flow freely through your body.
So it's like creating a strong foundation for both physical and energetic alignment.
Exactly. And this concept of finding that inner strength through balance and alignment is then applied to something we do every day, walking.
Walking. We're going to talk about how to walk now. I thought this was about breathing.
It is. But the manual emphasizes that walking, like breathing, can be an incredibly mindful practice. It introduces this idea of water walking.
Water walking. Okay, now you're really speaking my language. I'm a big fan of water metaphors.
Water walking is all about moving with grace and fluidity, as if you were gliding across the surface of a lake. It involves principles like newspaper, kit row, and whipping.
Newspaper, kit row, and whipping. Those sound like dance moves.
They do, but they're really just descriptive terms for specific ways of engaging your body to create that effortless flowing movement.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about those principles.
Well, imagine you're holding a newspaper in front of you as you walk. Newspaper is about maintaining that same lightness and sense of forward momentum, allowing your arms to swing naturally and your body to move with ease.
Ah, so it's about finding that sense of buoyancy as if you were being carried by the water.
Exactly. Kit row focuses on the movement of your legs, encouraging a smooth gliding motion.
And what about whipping? That sounds a bit more energetic.
It is. Whipping is about using a slight rotational movement in your torso to propel you forward, like a gentle wave moving through your body.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these principles all work together to create that effortless, flowing walking style. It's almost like dancing.
It is. And the manual reminds us that walking can be a form of meditation in motion, a way to connect with our bodies and with the present moment.
It's so easy to take walking for granted, but this manual is opening my eyes to a whole new way of experiencing it.
And that's what I love about this manual. It's full of these surprising insights that challenge our assumptions and open us up to new possibilities.
It's like they're saying that everything we do, even something as simple as walking or breathing, can be a practice, a way to connect with ourselves and with the world around us.
Absolutely. And that brings us to one of the most profound themes in the manual, the idea that breathing is a reflection of life itself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Tell me more about that.
The manual emphasizes the three characteristics of breath: reciprocity, coexistence, and impermanence.
Reciprocity, coexistence, and impermanence.
Reciprocity, coexistence, and impermanence. Those sound like big concepts.
They are, but they're also incredibly relevant to our everyday lives. Okay, break it down for me. How do these characteristics of breath relate to our lives?
Well, reciprocity is about the give and take, the inhale and exhale. Just as we need to both receive and give in life, our breath reminds us of this constant exchange of energy.
Ah, so it's like the breath is a reminder that we're all interconnected, that we depend on each other for survival.
Exactly. And coexistence reminds us that we're not separate from the world around us. Just as our breath is part of the air we breathe, we too are part of this larger ecosystem.
And impermanence.
Impermanence reminds us that everything is in constant flux, just like our breath. Each breath is unique, never to be repeated. It's a reminder to embrace change, to let go of attachments, to appreciate the beauty of the present moment.
Wow, those are powerful insights. It's amazing how something as simple as breathing can teach us so much about life.
It is. And the manual emphasizes that by observing our breath, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's like the breath is a mirror reflecting back to us the truth of who we are and how we relate to the world.
Exactly. And that's where the power of language comes in. The manual intentionally uses evocative terms and playful names to make these techniques more memorable and engaging.
I have to admit, those quirky names like jellyfish float and tomato breathing really caught my attention. I wouldn't have been as drawn to the manual if it was full of dry technical terms.
I know, right? It's like they're inviting us to play with our breath, to have fun with it, to explore it with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
And that sense of playfulness extends to this idea of the breathing theater, where our breath becomes the stage for our inner dramas.
Ah, yes, the breathing theater. I love that concept. It's about becoming the watcher of our own internal play, observing our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in the storyline.
So it's like we're both the actor and the audience.
Exactly. We're experiencing the emotions, but we're also observing them from a place of detachment.
It sounds like a powerful tool for managing stress and cultivating emotional resilience.
It is. Yeah. And it leads beautifully into the concept of unconditional forgiveness.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does breathing connect to forgiveness?
Just as our breath flows in and out naturally, without judgment or resistance, we can learn to approach life with that same sense of acceptance and compassion.
Ah, so it's about letting go of those grudges, those resentments, those negative thoughts that hold us back.
Exactly. Breathwork becomes a pathway to cultivating that inner state of forgiveness towards ourselves and others. It's about releasing those burdens and creating space for peace and healing.
I love that. It's like using the breath to cleanse and purify our inner landscape.
Now, what about this hummingbird technique? It sounds fascinating.
Oh, yes. Hummingbird is all about using sound and vibration to influence the body and mind.
Because like sound healing.
It is. It involves different types of humming, or may, as it's called in the manual.
May. I like that. It sounds so much more evocative than just humming.
Right. And each type of may targets a different area of the body.
So it's like using sound as a tool for healing and transformation.
Exactly. And it reminds me of this concept called sensory transformation.
Sensory transformation. What's that?
It's the idea that one sense can be experienced through another. Like, for example, hearing a sound might evoke a visual sensation.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It's like the senses are all interconnected, influencing each other in subtle ways.
I know. And the manual doesn't explicitly talk about sensory transformation, but it's fascinating to consider how these techniques might be working on multiple levels.
Like there's a whole hidden dimension to these practices that we're only beginning to understand.
And speaking of hidden dimensions, we've explored a lot of different techniques, but is there an underlying principle that connects them all?
There is, and the manual calls it the breathing core.
The breathing core. Okay, I'm all ears.
Imagine it as a central axis within you, connecting your body to the earth below and the sky above.
So it's like an energetic center point.
Exactly. It's a place of grounding, stability, and awareness. And you can return to this core anytime you feel lost, overwhelmed, or disconnected.
It sounds like a powerful anchor point for the practice. But how do you actually find and connect with your breathing core?
Well, the manual suggests using mental tools like symbolization, factorization, and realization.
Those sound a bit technical. Can you break them down for me?
Sure. Symbolization is about using imagery, like the breathing core, to represent a complex idea. Factorization is about breaking that complex idea down into smaller, more manageable parts. And realization is about moving beyond intellectual understanding and actually experiencing the practice in your body.
So it's not enough to just know about the breathing core. You have to actually feel it, embody it, make it real.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens. It's in that embodied experience that we truly connect with the power of the breath.
This manual is so full of wisdom and insight. I feel like we've only just begun to explore its depth.
We have. And in our final segment, we'll explore some practical tips for integrating these practices into daily life, as well as some of the broader philosophical implications of this unique approach to breathing.
Stay tuned, deep divers. We'll be right back after a short break.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive. I'm still buzzing from all those incredible breathing techniques. It's amazing how much there is to discover.
It is. It's like opening a treasure chest of ancient wisdom.
I know, and I keep thinking back to this idea of the breathing theater. It really struck a chord with me.
Oh, me too. It's such a powerful way to think about our inner world.
It is. Like, I can actually feel it happening when I get stressed. My chest tightens, my breathing gets all shallow. It's like my body's reacting to the drama unfolding on that inner stage.
And that's when the watcher comes in, right?
Exactly. It's that part of us that can step back and observe the drama without getting swept away by it.
It's like we have a choice, We can either get caught up in the emotions or we can choose to watch them with a sense of detachment and curiosity.
It's like we're watching a movie, and we know it's not real, so we can just enjoy the show without taking it personally. That's a great analogy. And the breath becomes our anchor, our connection to that place of stillness and observation.
It reminds me of meditation. That practice of noticing your thoughts without judgment, letting them come and go like clouds in the sky.
Exactly. And breathing techniques can help us cultivate that same sense of mindfulness and awareness in our daily lives.
And that brings us to unconditional forgiveness. I'm really interested in how this concept ties into breath work.
Well, just as our breath flows in and out naturally without resistance, we can learn to approach life with that same sense of ease and acceptance.
So it's about letting go of those grudges, those resentments, those negative thoughts that weigh us down.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we all make mistakes, that we're all imperfect, and that it's okay to let go of the past and move forward with compassion and understanding.
It's like using the breath to cleanse and purify our inner world, to create space for peace and healing.
Beautifully said. And the more we practice, the more natural it becomes.
But for someone who's just starting out, it can feel a bit overwhelming. There are so many techniques, so many concepts. Where do we begin?
Remember the manual's advice. If you get lost, return to the breathing core.
Right. That's such a simple yet powerful reminder.
It is, and it's a practice in itself. Finding that core, that center point within ourselves, that's where the real journey begins.
So it's not just about mastering the techniques, but about cultivating that inner awareness, that connection to our breath, to our bodies, to our true selves.
Exactly. And that's something we can practice anytime, anywhere. It doesn't require special equipment or a lot of time.
What are some simple ways that our listeners can start incorporating these ideas into their daily lives?
Start by simply noticing your breath throughout the day. Pay attention to how you breathe when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling tired.
So it's about bringing awareness to the breath, making it a conscious practice rather than something we do unconsciously?
Exactly. And then experiment with some of the techniques we discussed. Try bottoming, try haifumi fuhai, try tomato breathing. See what resonates with you.
And it's okay to start small, right? A few minutes here and there.
Absolutely. Consistency is key. Even a few minutes of conscious breathing each day can make a difference.
It's like planting a seed. With patience and care, it will eventually grow into something beautiful.
I love that analogy. And remember, this deep dive has just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
It's true. This manual has opened my eyes to a whole new world of possibilities. It's more than just a collection of breathing exercises. It's a guide to living a more mindful, balanced, and fulfilling life.
It is. And the journey begins with a single breath.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired, I encourage you to take a deep breath and begin. Experiment, explore, and most importantly, enjoy the journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Japanese breathing techniques. Until next time, happy breathing.